The room was completely silent when the lawyer finished reading my father's will. My older sister smiled. My mother squeezed her hand. I received absolutely nothing. Not the house, not the savings, not even my father's watch. My sister actually whispered, "Looks like Dad finally saw who deserved everything." She thought the story was over. She had no idea the lawyer hadn't finished. If you've ever been betrayed by the people you trusted most, make sure to subscribe because today's story proves one thing. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't planned. Sometimes justice was planned years before you even knew you needed it. My name is Ethan Brooks. I'm 33 years old. When people hear family, they imagine warmth. Mine felt more like a competition I never agreed to enter. My older sister, Vanessa, was everyone's favorite. She wasn't smarter. She wasn't kinder. She simply knew how to perform. She complimented people when others were watching. She cried whenever she got caught lying. And somehow, everyone believed her, especially my mother. Growing up, every success of mine somehow became Vanessa's achievement. If I earned straight A's, Mom would say Vanessa inspired me. If I bought my own first car, she'd remind everyone, Vanessa drove me to interviews years earlier. Nothing was ever allowed to belong completely to me, not even my accomplishments. Dad noticed. He rarely argued with Mom. Instead, he watched, quietly, carefully. Whenever he asked how work was going, he actually listened. Whenever Vanessa interrupted, he'd gently tell her, "Let your brother finish." Small moments, but they meant everything. Then cancer entered our lives. Within 8 months, the strongest man I'd ever known could barely climb the stairs. I visited every evening after work. Sometimes we talked, sometimes we simply sat together without saying anything. Vanessa visited too, usually when someone else was watching. She posted smiling hospital selfies online with captions about cherishing every moment. Then she'd leave 20 minutes later. Dad never said anything. But he noticed. 3 weeks before he passed away, Dad asked me to help organize his workshop. It was his favorite place. The smell of fresh cut wood still filled the room. He handed me an old wooden box. "One day," he whispered, "you'll understand why I kept this." I smiled. I thought he meant the memories inside. I had no idea it would change everything. After he died, the funeral came and went. People cried, people hugged. Then everyone went back to their normal lives, except ours. Because the will reading was scheduled for Friday, Vanessa arrived wearing expensive designer clothes. She looked more excited than heartbroken. Mom barely spoke to me. The lawyer opened the folder. Dad's savings, to Vanessa. The lake cabin, to Vanessa. The investment accounts, to Vanessa. Mom smiled proudly. Then came the sentence that broke something inside me. I leave no additional financial assets to my son Ethan. That was it, nothing. Vanessa leaned close enough for only me to hear. I guess Dad finally figured out who actually mattered. I felt my stomach twist. Years of loyalty, years beside his hospital bed, gone. Or so I thought. The lawyer slowly closed the folder, then looked directly at me. "Ethan, there is one more document." Vanessa frowned. Mom looked confused. The lawyer reached into his briefcase, pulled out a sealed envelope. Across the front, in my father's handwriting, were 6 simple words. "Only open if Ethan receives nothing." The room froze. Vanessa's confident smile disappeared. The lawyer carefully opened it. Inside was another letter and a small brass key. Dad's handwriting filled 3 pages. The first sentence made my eyes burn. "If you're reading this, then the people in this room proved me right." Dad wrote that he had spent years watching how differently Vanessa and I were treated. He knew exactly who showed up when nobody was watching. He knew who paid hospital bills without asking. He knew who canceled vacations to drive him to chemotherapy. Then came the sentence nobody expected. "Ethan, the real inheritance was never included in the will." Vanessa immediately interrupted. "What does that even mean?" The lawyer calmly ignored her. He continued reading. Dad explained that 5 years earlier, he had quietly purchased a commercial building downtown. Nobody knew, not even Mom. The building had been placed into a family trust. The only beneficiary, me. Vanessa stood up so quickly her chair crashed onto the floor. "That's impossible." The lawyer calmly slid another folder across the table. Inside were ownership documents, rental contracts, bank statements, everything. The property generated nearly $18,000 every month in rental income, completely debt-free. Mom stared at the paperwork in disbelief. Vanessa kept repeating he can't do this, but he already had, years earlier, legally, irrevocably. Dad had left her money. He left me freedom. Then the lawyer read the final page. Dad wrote, money disappears, character doesn't. If Vanessa ever tries convincing Ethan to sell the building, my advice is simple. Smile and say no. I actually laughed through my tears. That sounded exactly like him. Quiet, patient, always 3 moves ahead. Vanessa suddenly changed her tone. She apologized. She said grief made everyone emotional. She suggested we should split everything equally because family mattered more than money. Funny, family hadn't mattered 20 minutes earlier. I stood up, looked at my mother, then at Vanessa. I don't hate either of you, but Dad spent years making this decision. I'm going to respect it. Vanessa begged. Mom cried. Neither changed my answer. I picked up the brass key, walked toward the door. Before leaving, I turned around. You already received everything you thought was valuable. I'm keeping the one thing Dad trusted only me with. Neither of them followed me. They knew it was over. A week later, I unlocked the commercial building for the first time. The morning sunlight reflected across the windows. 10 small businesses rented offices there. A bakery owner greeted me with a smile. So, you're Mr. Brooks's son. He always said one day you'd take good care of this place. I smiled back. I'll do my best. That building wasn't just an investment. It was proof. Proof that my father had always seen me, even when nobody else did. People often think revenge is about hurting someone. It isn't. Sometimes the greatest revenge is quietly living the life someone tried to convince you that you never deserved. My sister inherited what she wanted. I inherited what my father believed in. Looking back, I think I got the better deal. If this story stayed with you until the very end, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me honestly, what would you have done if you were sitting in that lawyer's office? And if you're ready for another unforgettable revenge story filled with shocking twists and satisfying karma, click the next video on your screen. Trust me, the next one is even more unbelievable.